So in this segment, we're going to be discussing why the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel has taken so long, and shocker, the blame goes on to one side. So this is Qatar's Prime Minister revealing details of the ceasefire agreement, kind of how it's come about, and the scale of the problem.
This is the framework that we have signed 2 days ago. Is the same framework that we agreed on in December 23. Which is basically 13 months of a waste of negotiating details that has no meaning and doesn't worth any single life that we lost in Gaza, or any single life of those hostages that lost their life because of the bombing, because they are among everyone else.
Israel's security.
We know that hostages were killed, or killed during the conflict. Would be that hostages that were left by Hamas as they were leaving areas, but predominantly, I think what we've seen of the hostages being killed is by, ironically, by Israeli forces. They have killed their own people that were taken as hostages.
The cabinet finally signed off on the deal after delays following internal squabbling. Qatar's Prime Minister says all involved must seize this opportunity for peace.
I believe it's the moment for all of us today to think about what's on the broader picture. How can we have a peaceful Middle East? How can we have a Palestinian state next to Israeli state, living side by each other peacefully? And that's what we are aiming for.
Sheikh Mohammed Abdul Rahman Al Thani also praised President Trump and his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, for getting the deal over the line.
We believe President Trump can create a greater impact for the region, and Steve Witkoff, the special envoy to the Middle East, has demonstrated a leadership in these negotiations, and we see the way he fought for a deal to happen.
This is quite interesting because Biden was asked recently, does he think Trump will get the credit for the ceasefire? And Biden kind of laughed it off, but I think he might.
And I believe if this will continue to be the attitude and the approach for the next 4 years, we can create a lot of good things for the region.
Qatar has been at the center of negotiations since the Hamas-led attack on Israel on October the 7th, 2023. Despite its success in mediating a brief ceasefire and hostage exchange in November of that year, its hosting of Hamas's political office has received criticism from some quarters.
So I agree that they do deserve criticism for having kind of the leaders of Hamas there, who would be quite safe in terms of organising kind of terrorist attacks from the safety of Qatar. The only benefit really is that Qatar have and can continue to put pressure on their leadership, and they can easily say, look, if you don't play ball here, we can kick you out. And where are you going to be then? You're going to be dealing with the stuff all your foot soldiers are going to be dealing with. So that's the only kind of positive angle I can kind of spin, I guess, for Qatar, if I was going to give them some sort of leniency here. But their Prime Minister does give, does kind of talk about how that wasn't an issue for them.
It didn't stop us. It didn't hinder our effort. It made us more committed to achieve our objective and our goal to bring the ceasefire and to bring peace to Gaza and to bring the hostages back to their families. We feel for both the same way. All of them, they are a human being.
Despite commitment from the negotiators, this is a fragile deal between two sworn enemies, and the chance of it collapsing remains high.
We'll see how this goes, because Netanyahu does have a lot to answer for to the Israeli people in terms of the situation with the hostages, and also he had indictments before this whole war broke out again. So we'll see how that goes for him. And in terms of why it took so long, we have I think it's one of the negotiators here explaining it from Qatar.
The major issues were addressed a long time ago. It was details over how the exchanges happen, who is on the exchanges, who is on the list. And the problem with these negotiations is that the situation on the ground changes every day. Hostages are killed by strikes. More civilians are killed by the war machine. Troops are moving on the ground from one place to the other, which means that the parameters keep changing every day, even while we are doing the negotiations. Yeah. And plus, I don't have to tell you, Matt, the politics, and you were just saying this to your previous guest, the politics of the situation were more damning than the realities of the situation on the ground. And our Prime Minister said it in an interview yesterday. The situation was quite political throughout the negotiations in a way that makes us as human beings, feel ashamed at what was happening. We were discussing the lives of individuals from a political lens. We were discussing aid going into Gaza being used as leverage. We were discussing civilians being attacked, killed for no good reason, just for political posturing. So hopefully now, with the beginning of this deal, we can get past the politics of it, and we can start implementing peace on the ground.
So let's hope it does stay peaceful. Biden was, kind of discussing conversations he had with Netanyahu, and this is abysmal from Joe Biden.
When I went to Israel immediately after their attack by Hamas, 8 days later, whatever it was, and I told him we were going to help. And I said, but Bibi, I said, you can't be carpet bombing these communities. And he said to me, well, you did it. You carpet bomb, not his exact words, but you carpet bomb Berlin. You dropped a nuclear weapon.
And those were the wrong things to do. The nuke is the one that people debate over whether Japan would have surrendered anyways. I have heard arguments that that Japan weren't that far off surrender as it's. So that one you can debate over, I guess. But with the carpet bombing and stuff like that, what you're doing predominantly is just killing civilians. It doesn't help. Like, if you want more evidence of that, America did bomb, use napalm in Vietnam. That was not a war they won. Like, you can't argue that carpet bombing is the key to success. If you're another example, the Nazis, essentially just tried to decimate London via the Blitz. Now, I don't remember the Nazis winning that war either.
Killed thousands of innocent people because you had to in order to win a war. I said, but that's why we came up with the UN. New deals by which what we would do relative to civilians and military.
So he was comparing 21st century war tactics, battle tactics, with World War II.
Well, what he was really doing is he was going after me for saying you can't indiscriminately bomb civilian areas, even if the bad guys are there. Even if the bad guys there, you can't take.
Do you know what happens when you do that? You create more villains. That's what you do. You kill someone's kid, and they will come after you. You take away their world, they will come after you. And that's the message we should have learnt really from the war on terror. But no one seems to have learnt that lesson.
Take out 2, 10, 12, 1,500 people, innocent people, in order to get the one bad guy. And he made a legitimate argument. His perspective said, look, these are the guys that kill my people. These are the guys that are all over in these tunnels. Nobody had any idea the miles of tunnels are down there. It's amazing what they built. And they're sometimes 200 feet under the ground. Well, the way to get to them is take out the places where they were under which they got to the tunnels. And so that's...
So you go in and you find the entry points then. You don't go carpet bombing, because it's not how you find the entrances. All you're going to do is cover it up with a building.
That's the first time I had the discussion about bombing civilian areas was when I went over after the 9/11, after the massacre that occurred.
So on that first trip, 10, 11 days after October 7th, you already raised the issues of how to get to a ceasefire.
Well, not a ceasefire, how to prevent innocent death.
Yes.
So this would have been just as the conflict kicked off. And it's kind of crazy. Well, kind of this wave of the conflict, and it's kind of crazy to me, like the fact that Netanyahu got away with so much based on some of the worst arguments I've heard in terms of arguing, you guys did it before and whatever. It's like, sir, he's also talking, but also the fact that weapons are so good now, you can do precision strikes and get people much easier than it's ever been. But instead, they chose to go, do essentially, turn it kind of like what Britain did to Dresden, just carpet bomb it. And, effectively, how do you even know you've gotten the people you wanted to get when you do that? You would have to identify a body. It doesn't make any sense. So, these are the reasons why I think it took so long to get a ceasefire. Does Trump deserve credit? I don't know yet, because it looks like the Qataris are ready to give them credit, whether they're doing that for political reasons, because, he's the incoming president, or whether it's true that the US envoy actually did make a big difference there, because this is as Biden is going, and we know Biden bought into the weakest arguments to ever be made So I don't know. And Biden could have stopped this at any moment, and he suddenly does this on his way out. I don't know. Does Biden deserve credit? Probably not much, to be honest. You don't deserve credit for doing the absolute basics. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.